Everybody, welcome back to the Insiders Lounge. Today we have another special episode and two special guests today. Guys, if you quickly want to introduce yourselves, Sabrina, if you want to start off. I normally do this. I think we can do it a little bit differently this time. I thought normally we get you to introduce yourself, but since you two have worked together and now you're working on a new project together, I thought maybe you can introduce each other and try and switch things up. So Sabrina, if you want to start by introducing Gabbie, and then Gabbie, if you want to do the same for Sabrina.
Sure. Well, thank you, Chad, for having us on today to talk about our ICNC campaign. Gabbie and I have been working together for years. We met at FC Barcelona's office here in New York. Gabbie was a commercial designer working directly with the three commercial guys to create decks that help bring in sponsorship opportunities to the club based here in the US market. But Gabbie is a special talent, and that's why she and I have always stayed in touch. She's one of those people who are always willing to go above and beyond to deliver a great product, a great result. She's always interested in getting her hands in multiple different projects. She's interested in life. She's interested in business, and she's always pushing the threshold of what she's capable of doing. And that has always impressed me about Gabbie. She loves sports. She played soccer her whole life. And, she's continuing to work on multiple projects with me on ICNC, with me in my business, my public relations business, Sabrina Comms, and also doing multiple other projects for other colleagues that she's worked with over the years. And we could talk a little bit more about probably why Gabbie has all these opportunities at her fingertips. It says a lot about who she is as a person. I know she's worked with the FIFA World Cup, college basketball, and college football and basketball, and even has done work with the San Diego Wave and others. So she's just similar to me in many ways in that she's a go-getter, and I love being around her. She has a great personality. So I can't speak highly enough of Gabbie.
Thanks. That's so funny. I was going to say that you were the go-getter. But yeah, Sabrina and I have worked together since my Barca days. I started right there after college. So yeah, Sabrina's been in the wheelhouse for a while now. She's a great person to have as a contact, such a role model to me, like being right out of college. So I know Sabrina started her career in tech, so definitely working for Barca and joining her at Barca was probably not where she expected to go, but started her career in tech. And then by 2010, I know she launched her agency, and I think it was in 2020 we celebrated her 10-year anniversary, which was kind of crazy to see all the amazing work she's done. But Sabrina's been in the market with sports for a while. She represents the biggest football brands in the US market. She's also been teaching at NYU for 5 years. So I don't know what to say about that. That's pretty incredible. As well as Harvard's University Global Sports Initiative. So I don't know. Sabrina is just definitely one of these people that's been a role model for me for the last 7 years now after I've graduated. She's obviously here to help mentor young people, and myself included. Sabrina's definitely taken me under her wing and really, really brought me around to a lot of industry events, and just have shown me the ropes on how to maneuver this this lifestyle.
No, that's great. Gabbie, you actually linked to it perfectly there where I wanted to start the conversation. Before we get into ICNC, which I know is what we're talking about today, I wanted to get into just you guys in your journeys and how you ended up where you are now. I love looking back, and if we go back to your teenage selves, maybe high school or somewhere in that age range, and you looked like you could be able to see in the future and look at where you are now, was that sort of the expected career journey? Sabrina, if you want to start for yourself, I know Gabbie just mentioned there, starting in tech, could you see yourself doing what you're doing now, running your own business, teaching at all these different institutions? I'd love to hear kind of where your brain pattern and where you were thinking back then versus what you're doing now.
Absolutely not. I would never guess that I would be anywhere even close to the people, the brands, the opportunities that I've had over the past 20 years. I mean, Chad, you have me on social, so you've seen some of my backstory. I come from a lower middle class, average family here in New York. My dad was a truck driver. My mother didn't work. And I was always a straight A student, top of my class, but was never really focused on being any one thing. I just would always go with the flow. And somehow things unfolded where I started working in technology, and then in technology, because of my work ethic and the ability to deliver, made it to the summit of technology, where I started working with some of the biggest brands in tech, including Google, YouTube, Meta, etc. And then somehow in this window of when I was working in technology, I started my own business with a couple of tech startups, and digital media started to become, and digital advertising, online advertising started to become very big. And especially here in New York, right? New York is the center of the media industry and the advertising industry. So I started winning a lot of clients in that space. And then from there, it was kind of an easier transition into sport, because sport was obviously one of the really great sticky ways to get people to sign up and be a part of digital platforms. And it was, I think, working with Perform Group really opened up the door for me, because they started, as Perform Group is based in the UK, or was based in the UK. They started acquiring multiple brands such as Goal.com and Sporting News and Opta. And that really helped transition me from a focus on technology and digital media to sport. And many doors opened from Perform Group. They were my client, an amazing client for 8 years. We launched the Zone together. And that's how I got my start in football, because the CEO of Perform Group introduced me to the managing director of Bayern Munich's New York office. And from there, it was just, an incredible journey the last 10 years in the world of football. And when I say football, I mean European football. Soccer, as we know it here.
Yeah. And Gabbie, for yourself, I'm curious if you went back similar to what you were saying there, like going back to your high school days, and then now looking at where you are and what you've been able to accomplish. Did that feel like it was sort of meant to be? This is what you had planned originally?
That's a really great question. I think somewhere along the lines, I wanted to combine like my passion for football or soccer, and then also the art industry. I always had like a creative eye and was drawing everything in high school. So I didn't intend for it to fall in this way, but somehow, I landed my first job, and it was with like one of the biggest football clubs at the time. It still is. So, it kind of, I guess, unintentionally, but intentionally, I went that route. So, I don't know how I got there. It just kind of all happened. And then I kind of took it and ran with it. And now I'm trying to stay in the sports industry. I love the sports industry. So that's where I'm at.
So Sabrina, Gabbie mentioned that you're now teaching at NYU, and I believe this was the start of how ICNC actually came about, and the idea started brewing in the back of your head. So if you can tell us that sort of origin story behind how ICNC really got to become its name, and then Gabbie will kind of get your perspective on the start of the project.
Sounds great, Chad. So back in, I think it was October of last year, NYU created this incredible program called the Women's Sport Collective, which is headed by Professor Gina Antonelli, who's a great friend of mine. She invited me to come speak at this event, which included 80 plus students, many of them young female professionals. And I was overwhelmed with how many of those young women reached out to me. Both immediately after that event, they came up to me at the, in the space, and then how many emailed me afterward, all with a very similar question. How do I develop my confidence so that I can be a professional like you? How can I use your confidence? How can I find that confidence within me so that I can achieve my goals in my career? And it was shocking to me how many people use that word confidence. And it was almost as if it started to become limiting. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe it is confidence. I mean, I would say that I probably am one of those people on the extrovert side. I'm naturally confident, but the reality is there are plenty of rooms that I walk into that I'm not confident because I'm not an expert, and I'm there to learn. I'm there to grow. I'm there, to absorb knowledge from other people. And there is a difference in my level of confidence, but what the important piece for those young women to understand is that the way to build your career and the way to seem confident, even if you're not on that more extrovert side, is to build your education, skill set, experience, and knowledge so that when you do walk into the room, you feel confident in that you have that foundational level of knowledge and insight that you can share with others. And that alone puts you in that confident mindset. So, I really wanted young women to understand that through the hard work and through the experience that you gain over years, that confidence will develop. And even if it's not a flashy type of confidence that some of us have, it's enough of a confidence where you can walk into a room and be seen as an expert and a leader. And that's key for developing future leaders who are female, because many young women struggle with this idea of imposter syndrome. And there's tons of research on the fact that women need to be overqualified for any role to even feel like they belong there, where men on the other side, they will realize they don't have all the skills yet for a particular job, and they'll just go for it because they have their own internal, confidence. And I just wanted, again, to create something. And I kept saying over and over again to all of these women, it's not confidence, it's competence. What you're seeing, it's not confidence, it's competence. And just saying that over and over again, over like a 3-day period, I was like, I need to do something with it, create something here. And it really was as simple as that. It's not confidence or whatever. It's competence, not confidence. I really wanted to lead with the competence piece of it. And and then Gabbie came up with the ICNC, which is brilliant. She's just an incredible brand builder, designer, and she's helped me a lot with my business, actually, my logos and my, my brand values and all of that. So she really was the person who came up with the ICNC, which I actually really love. So Gabbie, I'm going to pass the floor to you now on what you thought when I reached out to you and said, hey, let's do a campaign for International Women's Day, which is all about it's competence, not confidence. And then, of course, let's create a t-shirt because, again, we just saw how everyone watches women's sports became a phenomenon, a movement in and of itself. So we thought the t-shirt would be a really great way to get the movement out there, a visible way for people to support the cause, support the movement, and to create conversation around. But, and then I gave it over to Gabbie because she's the design brain behind everything. I just had those words in my head and I'm like, can you create something like this? What do you think? And then Gabbie, go.
Okay.
You were like, Sabrina's going crazy again. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
there's another idea.
No, not at all. Let's see. I don't know where to begin. I think Sabrina called me one day and was just like I've been working with Sabrina for so long, but she just called me to catch up and then told me about this idea. And it was just like an idea, like Sabrina had this whole idea, and then the project was to how to bring it to life and like how to give this brand a voice and like visually as well, like make it visually appealing and like on her brand as well, like be on brand with Sabrina and this message she's trying to share to the world. So yeah, Sabrina called me. I absolutely love the idea because I know for myself, when I get projects, I'm not always confident about it. It's always more like, I know I can do, it's my competence. Like, I know I'm capable of doing this. So I like that the quote switches around the narrative from always being confidence, because it is also competence, and imposter syndrome is so real. So just having like a fallback of, okay, you know what, I am competent about this. Like that does help me grow my confidence in turn. So that's kind of how it all started. Was there another question to that?
ICNC, how did you come up with that? That was a cool addition to this whole concept.
Yeah, so ICNC, I just really needed something shorter to like design with. It's nothing like crazy, nothing out of the, it's really nothing crazy, but really, I just needed something shorter to like play around with design wise, like have some design elements I can sprinkle throughout the brand, like on the bags, for example, or like the cards that we're handing out, even the website, like just something for people to recognize before trying to remember the whole it's competence, not confidence
But the
saying.
design is so important, and I really credit you with that, because the ICNC really brought the campaign to a new level, and from my perspective.
Yeah, I think it just definitely needed something shorter to be recognized like right away, and then for it, especially since it's so new, like just having that one standalone like ICNC, okay, like I see that this is what it means, just being able to recognize it quicker than it's confidence, not confidence, and then eventually it will catch on and people will start understanding like, okay, this is what ICNC means.
I think as I was doing the questions over the last few days, that was just repeating in my head, ICNC, ICNC, like it just, and naturally now, like as soon as I see the word like confidence or competence anywhere, I'm like, oh yeah, I know this, like it just happens to flow. So it's funny how it's already starting to get that effect that you guys are looking for. I want to discuss the actual, the meaning of it itself. You mentioned how the students, especially for you, Sabrina, when you first had that talk, they're really focusing on confidence or fixating on that idea. Why do you think people fixate on that rather than the competence side of things?
Well, I mean, listen, I could take this in so many different directions, but what I'll say is this. There are two reasons why. Number one is confidence is very visible. And I think that it's okay for people to say you're confident and fantastic. I am probably on that scale, as I say, and I don't shy away from that. That's a good thing. But also, confidence can be a little limiting. It can feel shallow, where competence, which, again, I've worked so hard for 20 years to build my career in all of these key areas, which now also are very impactful in sport, like having this deep understanding of technology, having a deep understanding of digital media, having a deep understanding of storytelling, and then having worked with the biggest football brands in the world, for 10 years, I have a very deep understanding of football and as it relates to growing in the US market. And I don't want my competence to be undermined by this idea of confidence, because what people are seeing today in me is more the competence than the confidence. So perhaps maybe when I was in my 20s or my early 30s, I might have thought that confidence was something of a compliment. But today, because of the blood, sweat, and tears that I've put in to build my knowledge, my experience, my expertise, my leadership, I don't want to be called confident. I want people to realize that they're speaking to someone who's highly competent. So it's deep. It's factual. It's rooted in knowledge and experience. And that's more important to me than being confident or not confident. So that's why it was so important to me to get that message out there.
And I think it's almost like having, as you guys are saying it, it's almost like having confidence in your competence. So whatever you have been able to build up, being confident in the fact that that is competent enough to do what you're trying to do. It's like a real play on words there, but I think that's even part of the message as well that I'm really resonating with. Gabbie, you mentioned that the sort of the branding side of things with the bags and the shirts and everything that's coming into play. I wanted to get into more of what this actually looks like now. What is ICNC going to become? It's sort of a movement and a message, but what does that look like in a real day-to-day sort of setting? So if you can break down just some of the things you guys are working on behind the scenes, and then what we can expect in the launch of March 1st. I know that's the kind of the exciting date to wait on everything.
Yeah, Sabrina, do you want to take this away?
Well, I had been, of course, because I'm a sports business executive. I teach at NYU. I'm constantly following the trends. And Chad, even you brought this to my attention. I had come across research that showed, women's sports apparel and women's apparel is a $4 billion untapped market. I had been following the progression of the everyone watches women's sports as a movement. I was very interested in that. I was very supportive of that. I wanted to see who was wearing the t-shirt, how that impacted the movement. And the movement really grew to, be bigger than I think what people initially expected because of the influencers who were wearing it and the attention that it provided. And of course, it drove $3 million of sales in 7 months, which I thought was, jaw dropping. And I thought a t-shirt is a really great way to get the message out there. It's something tangible. It's something you can wear and maybe also feel more confident and remind yourself that you are competent and you can do this. And it's a very visible sign to everyone else around us. It was a way to get influencers involved. So we're sending out t-shirts to over 24 women who are extremely accomplished in sport, whether that's they're on-air hosts for multiple shows, they are, executives who are making decisions in the boardroom about what's happening for their team or their league, or they're players and coaches. And we've been very, very lucky to bring in, again, 24 people just in our initial campaign that want to wear the t-shirt, that want to tell their story of how competence has led to who they are today and their journey to competence, really, the setbacks, the failures, the hard work, the challenges, the mountains that you have to climb, the things that you have to deal with and you have to overcome in order to get to the other side where you're competent and you're a leader and you're an expert in your field. So I felt like that was a really important way, the t-shirt, the stories of the women, and sharing both of those with the world and with young leaders, especially young female leaders. But I have to say, Chad, just like you're a supporter here, you're having a conversation with us about this. And I have many male allies who are stepping up and who are going to wear the t-shirt and share the t-shirt on their channels. They're coming to our pre-launch party on February 24th. And there are plenty of men who are stepping in and saying, I want to be a part of this too, which is just so heartwarming and so much, so appreciated in terms of, this is not just for women, although this is an issue that women struggle with more than young men. So it is more intended for young women. And again, I think the t-shirt was just a really smart way, looking at the Everyone Watches Women's Sport example as a case study.
And who are you kind of hinted at it there, but who are you really trying to speak to? Like, who are you hoping is the target audience in this sense? Because I know we look at it from the outsider's point of view. You're both in the sporting industry, both in soccer specifically, but I think, like you mentioned there, it's a broader, not necessarily issue, but a broader message that can be told to many more than just in this industry specifically. So I'd love to hear more of like the target audience and who we're actually trying to approach with this message.
Well, we are looking to reach young women, young professionals worldwide. That's really our target. This year, we've gotten started with obviously leveraging our own network, which we have extensive network in sports and in football and in soccer in the US. So that was just, for us, the best way to get it started. But Gabbie and I have big plans. And after, this March, after this first launch, we're going to put our heads together and think about, the best ways to bring this out to more young professionals in multiple different industries, as we talked about in media. Well, actually, media is already incorporated here, but like sports media, but the broader ecosystem of media, technology, all the industries. It's really about affecting change within young women so that they can find their own confidence via competence. And that is, there's no limit on who this is for. And as I said, even young men are getting in on the action and are interested in wearing our t-shirt, are interested in being a part of this movement. And so I wouldn't even just limit it to young professional women, although that's our target. That's who we want to really help. But I think, men and women alike are really interested in this campaign. And that alone, speaks volumes to me, is that almost everyone who I reached out to, Chad, instantly got back to us, right, Gabbie, and said, I want to be a part of this. I understand why this is needed. I totally agree. And I want to share my story with, the young people worldwide so that they understand why it's important to develop your competence. So it wasn't a struggle at all to get anyone involved in this, which was so nice and refreshing to see. And I think it just speaks volumes about, the movement and the message that we've come up with here.
We speak a lot on the podcast about legacy and what people know you for. And I think this ties along with it perfectly. And you almost just transitioned the conversation there perfectly. So Gabbie, we'll give Sabrina a bit of a break. I'm curious for you, in terms of legacy and what you want people to know you for, how does ICNC help develop that in terms of like the long term and the longevity of this project, but also just your career and your personal life as a whole?
Yeah, well, this project is so new to me. Like, yes, I'm a designer and an animator, but never have I made t-shirts before or like come up with a whole brand guide by myself, obviously with Sabrina's help, but like as the only designer on it. So definitely it's been a journey just to try and figure out how to, like, from designing the brand look and feel to setting up the website to like getting these t-shirts and fulfillment and bags and putting everything together. It's definitely been different than what I've ever worked on before. So it's a really cool project to like tap into. As far as legacy goes, I think just to like really touch upon how you can start anywhere and like you will eventually start growing within your industry, and like just to like keep going no matter what. And just, I want people to look at this brand and be like, okay, yeah, easily recognizable, like very true. Like, I love the messaging, like it resonates with me or whoever it is. And just to like further push this movement down the road. I think that would be an ideal legacy for this project, is to just have everyone understand like it's twisting the narrative a little bit, and competence and confidence go hand in hand. It's not always just confidence. And then, yeah, just bringing this brand to life more so than it is right now. But yeah, we had a lot of great feedback from our initial reach out. So that was really encouraging and inspiring that like, okay, like it is, like, we know what we're doing. It's just like, this is new to us. Like, just keep going, essentially.
Yeah. And Sabrina, for yourself as well?
My legacy, I always want to be mentoring young women in my orbit. That's really important to me. I think Gabbie saw that from the beginning when we first met at Barcelona's office in New York. I always try to bring these young women under my wing. There aren't many of us in the industry, although in doing this campaign, I've realized, I've uncovered just how many incredible women, like when you put everyone together in a room, which is going to happen on February 24th, a lot of these women are going to be in a room together. Or, for us, we had to create these RSVP, lists, and you see just how many incredible, accomplished women there are around us, other leaders that I could also tap into, that I could also, leverage, and they can leverage me. So it's about building community amongst us women. That's not exclusive of men, but men have the boys club, of course, and as you should, and women need our girls club too. And we have unique issues and challenges that we have to face as women in professional settings, as women in sport. And, many of those are well documented. I don't need to talk about them here, but the reality is we need each other. Young women need leaders, female leaders who have been down that road, who have been, blazing a path ahead of them, to give them the insight and the advice, and hopefully leave the world in a little bit better of a place as they're coming up in the industry behind us. So my legacy, I hope, will always be that I've reached out my hand and helped as many, young women as I possibly could have to develop their own competence and their own path in this industry.
And we spoke about that sort of target audience, what we're looking for in terms of people that we can actually hear the message and want to join in and be a part of this. If people are listening in now and are inspired by what you guys are talking about, what are the ways that people can help out? Where do you want to lead people? Is it the social media or getting a t-shirt? I'd love to hear kind of the action steps that people can take to be a part of this movement.
Absolutely. So there is our ICNC _ it's Competence, which is an Instagram page. And hopefully you can share this when you post. And then Gabbie is in the process of finalizing our Shopify page, which is the place that, people can go and buy our t-shirt. And ultimately what we really want is for leaders and also young women to buy our t-shirt and then post their story about either if they're a young professional, how maybe this campaign has impacted them and has helped them to get to that next step, given them a push in the right direction. and or if they're a leader in the industry, talk about their journey to competence and all the things that they've had to do and all the ways they had to overcome challenges to get to this place where they are competent, and so therefore competent and confident, most likely in both of those scenarios. So there's the Instagram page, there's the Shopify page where they can buy the t-shirt, and then there's the storytelling that we really hope people will tag us and tell their stories on both sides of that equation. It's really important to keep building this momentum around the movement so that in future years and future iterations, we have this bank of community that we can go back to over and over again. And that importantly, they can go back to over and over again, keep going back to that well and finding the right mentors and connecting with the right people who can help you in your journey to professional, badassness.
I love it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say to sort of wrap things up, I think the best way to do it is to tap into your competent minds and get through your journeys of what you guys have experienced and allow others to learn from that. So I thought one of the first sort of best questions to ask would be for you guys in your journeys. If someone's listening now and they're a young aspiring individual that wants to get into, we'll say the sports business industry as a whole, what is the one piece of advice that you would recommend them to, either something that you experienced, a challenge that you faced that you can help with overcoming, or just something that you have in terms of advice? Gabbie, if you want to start things off.
Yeah, in terms of advice, I would say, Sabrina definitely tapped into this multiple times, but building your network as you're younger is super helpful and important, and just taking time to really cherish those connections and form those connections early on, and making sure it all comes down to being a good person, but just always staying on top of your work, your connections is super important. Especially, I've noticed it myself. If somebody didn't tell me this, I don't know where I would be right now. But just yeah, you have to build your connections, stay on top of the industry standards and what's happening around you. I'm always on every website trying to find what designers are doing nowadays, what's the in, what's the out, trying to stay on top of everything that's going on around me so I can be relevant with whatever it is, design, sports, anything. So yeah, I think staying relevant and managing your connections is probably my top 2 advice for anybody.
Yeah, so smart, Gabbie. This is something that I talk a lot to young people about in my classes at NYU is you have to read every day. You have to read for at least an hour every day. Whatever's happening in your industry, what are the latest trends, case studies, news announcements, what is going on in the industry? Because that's how you build your confidence, right? And that's how you feel confident when you have knowledge, when you have insights, when you can step into a room and have a conversation about what's happening in your industry. You will automatically not only just be competent, but you will be helping fuel your confidence, which is important. But 2 other things I would add to that is, maintaining relationships, making time to connect with people is so important, because every opportunity that you're going to get in your lifetime will come from someone probably that you already know. And the reality is the best opportunities, the coveted roles, the unique, unbelievable dream jobs or dream opportunities, they are coming from people who you have a relationship with, because generally those are inside jobs. They don't go out on, or even if they do collect, resumes on the external, or they put out RFPs, they almost already know who they're going to hire if you're the person. And that's the one thing that's helped me a lot in, having my business the last 15 years is making time for people, making people understand that I'm there to support them. And if I ever need support, hopefully they will be there for me. The other thing that's highly underrated is being the kind of person that just rolls up their sleeves and gets it done. Even at this stage of my career, all the things that I do, all the great places that I get to go and the people I get to work with, there's no job too small for me. I will roll my sleeves up and do anything that's required to be a part of the team and make sure that our team is successful. And I think young people today can get a little bit caught up in, they want to be ahead of the game. They want to be above really where they are. And that's okay. We all should have those dreams and aspirations, but don't lose sight of the fact that no matter what level you are, you have to roll up your sleeves and get the job done. So if it requires you to update spreadsheets, or it requires you to run to the store to grab things and ship things, like Gabbie's been shipping herself, ICNC t-shirts, etc. Like, Gabbie's just the perfect example of why I love working with her and people like her, is that no task is too small. No task is beneath her. We need to get this job done together, and we're getting it done together. Like, it's been amazing working with you. I absolutely love it. And that's why. So I think young people have those two things to really think about in terms of building their career in any industry.
And then the last one here, if someone is listening in and they thought, maybe at the beginning of the episode, they thought, I'm really struggling with my confidence. I need to get my confidence up. And now that they've listened through the episode, they've realized, I actually need to get my competence up. What is the advice that you have then for them? What does it actually look like? How can they help increase their own competence? Gabbie, if you want to hit us off, and then Sabrina, you can wrap things up.
Yeah, I think, from my personal experience, I think experience is number one in order to get your competence up. Just having like all these projects, taking them on, even knowing like, can I do this? Like, am I able to do this? Like, yeah, let me just roll my sleeves up and I'll get in there and like start the project. And like, this is how you build. At least for me, that's my building blocks of like, I don't really know how this is going to go, but let me try it anyway and like work as hard as I can to try and get to where I want to be. And in that, I've built my competence in like the specific projects I've worked on. So I think just, rolling your sleeves up and like getting the experience, no matter how small it is, I think that's where you should start.
Love that. Totally agree. I can't tell you how many projects I've taken on, including when I first took on Bayern Munich in 2014. I had zero experience working with any, football clubs, European football clubs, sports teams. I was not confident in that, but I took it on. And through that work, I built my competence in European football, which led me to Barcelona and so many other great projects with La Liga and Serie A, et cetera. And so, that's the thing. If you're not confident in something, it's okay, but jump in and see where it takes you. That's the only way you're going to build your knowledge. We talked about reading. Reading is very important as well, making sure you're staying on top of those trends. So just want to stress that again. And then jumping in and getting that experience. Of course, there's also education. I teach at NYU. I think building, your knowledge in a more traditional way via education is also really smart and a good addition to the experience element as well. And then connecting with people who have accomplished things that you are looking to accomplish. So you're trying to keep your orbit around those who are already in positions that you're coveting and that you're looking to go into, so that you can learn from their experience and you have kind of their pathway in mind as you're building your competence in these areas. So altogether, those are the best ways I believe you can build competence, and then which will ultimately lead to confidence, because confidence is a good thing, but it has to be based on real knowledge and experience and insight.
Well said from both of you. I appreciate your time today. If you have any last words before we wrap things up, and then we'll head off.
Gabbie?
Thanks for having us on. I've never done a podcast before, so this is really cool. Just one example of just going after it, I guess. But this was awesome. And I just want to briefly touch upon like how Sabrina had like, we want to hear everyone's stories. So like, please go to our Instagram and start sharing. And like, this is also just a great way to like build your network and like network around. And, it's more than just a t-shirt and more than just some words. We're really trying to make this a movement.
Well said, Gabbie. Yeah, join our movement. There's so many different ways you can do that. You could buy the t-shirt. You could join our Instagram channel, which I'm sure you'll share in the copy when you post this. But we really want to build community here. We want to create a movement that empowers young people worldwide. And we need everyone out there to join us in order to make this a reality. So I hope that everyone who watches this will join our movement in any of these ways. And we look forward to having you be a part of our community. Chad, thank you. You're already in our community. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for having us on your podcast. And just know you have allies in us as well for whatever you might need.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate your time. I'm always happy to have a first-time podcast guest on, so that's always nice. I appreciate it once again, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Wanna hear you go.